This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 419, the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. I don't need another speech by some impotent whack job whose mother didn't love him, rationalizing why he needs to conquer the universe. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do every week with a virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hopefully everyone is doing well.
Well enough.
Yeah.
I'm just talking before we came on, winding down the school year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure others, especially if you're in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
are in the same boat. I don't really know, how people do it in other countries. I don't know yet, but here it's school's getting done.
Yeah. My mother-in-law's last day is Thursday, and after that, she'll actually be retired. So it literally is her last day on Thursday. So
same with my mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same with my mother-in-law, except she has to go till June 9th because her school district is a clown show. And I will happily say that. She's retiring, she's done, and I can say it even if she wouldn't.
Can't.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me started.
Let me guess. The dreaded snow days.
Not even the snow days. It's just her school district it's Salt Lake City School District, and they just are run very terribly.
Wowza.
And all of the things I've heard, not just from her, but from other like parents and whoever, I'm just like, yeah, I'm glad we're not up there. I mean, the one we're in, it has its ups and downs, but it's the epitome of the teachers are amazing, the administration blows chunks, and they do a lot of that bureaucratic stuff that chases off the really, really good teachers. So. Yeah, it's a sad state of things. But she's excited, and we're excited for her. And it was funny because we were having Sunday dinner. Well, also we were celebrating my birthday last night, and all the family was there. And my brother-in-law is a nurse, and he's like talking about now, when you retire, you gotta, do you have a plan what you're gonna do? You're not just gonna sit around because that's not good too. And she's like, oh no, we know what we're doing. We've got this and this and this, and we're gonna do like all these different projects and people they want to see, helping be around the grandkids. I mean, all their grandkids live close enough to see regularly. So she's like, yeah, we're not going to be bored. Don't worry. So I'm like, yep. And even if you think you are, we'll drag you out and do something.
Yep.
So anyway, happy end of school, happy retirement for those who that applies to. And
yep. So, well, first up, we need to do the news, which Salt Lake FanX is not wasting any time, are they?
No, indeed.
They've dropped quite a bit since we caught up with them last. So
right, I know. I got the email and I was like, oh my.
Yeah, so it's like I just scrolled down to where we'd stopped last time on their Facebook page. So, among others, if you're planning on attending Fan X, you can see Wayne Knight, Newman.
Hello, Newman.
Hello, Newman. Hello, Jerry.
Yeah, that too. He was and I feel like he voiced something in Disney. He probably voiced several things.
Yeah. He's also in Jurassic Park.
Yes, he's Jurassic Park. He was in a lot of things in the 90s, so...
Yeah.
90s kids,
Yep.
And then...
Matthew Lillard, who if you're of a certain age, you know him probably best from the first Scream movie. But he's actually a big gamer. So
Yes.
obviously he was
agree
also in the
there.
live action Scooby-Doo
That's
films.
what I remember him from.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen any of the Scream
But
movies,
he is
so,
a
yeah.
big gamer fan, and he's got a company, and so he'll come to Gen Con. And so I saw him at his company's booth last year, so it was just rather wild to be like, Raggy?
Ruh-roh, Reggie.
Ruh-roh, Raggy, you're out of dice. You're out of the dice I wanted. So but yeah. And then for again the 90s fans, Mario Lopez, AC Slater himself, again from Scream, Nev Campbell, John Rhys Davies. I'm very jealous about that.
Yeah, he's been here before, and last time I sat on his panel, it was like it was a treat. So I'm looking forward to having him back.
Yeah.
And we also have a small group of Star Wars voice actors. So if
you may have heard of them.
You may have heard of them. So there's Ashley Eckstein, voice of Ahsoka. She'll be there. James Arnold Taylor, who's also looks like he's also voiced a bunch of video game characters, but he's voiced Obi-Wan. Matt Lanter, who I think is like, I love what he does with Anakin in Clone Wars, so that's exciting. And then, well, she's actually been on lots of great things, but they're kind of highlighting her Star Wars stint, Katie Sackhoff. Bo-Katan, Starbuck from the rebooted Battlestar Galactica.
But she's Bo-Katan.
She's Bo-Katan in the animated and in live action. So so that is some serendipity there. And I know there was a bunch of Star Trek because we just finished watching season 3 of Picard.
Some next gen / Picard folks: Jonathan Frakes, Michael Dorn, Gates McFadden, Denise Crosby.
I know, and I'm like, after Jared and I watched Deep Space Nine, I'm like, I think I need to meet Michael Dorn, and I definitely need to meet Jonathan Frakes, but I might have him sign a Gargoyles poster with Xanatos, because I was telling Jared as we were watching Picard, I'm like, I'm sorry, I just hear Xanatos when I hear Jonathan Frakes talk. That's just my frame of reference.
Or sneak a Leverage poster. Hey, you did a cameo and you directed here.
Yes, here you go. Please sign if you wouldn't mind. But although I do have an affinity for Riker. Yes. And I will embarrass Jared here because when I first met Jared, he did not have a beard, and he's very baby-faced without it. And like, then there was like a chunk of time I hadn't seen him for a while, and then I saw him again, and he had a beard, and I'm like,
keep that, please.
Keep that, please. In fact, when we got engaged, I said it's your Riker beard, and you are forbidden from ever shaving it. If anyone tells you have to do so for some whatever, I will exercise the wifely veto and say, no, you're not shaving your beard.
Right. Unless the dermatologist says you have to, then okay.
I will have to think long and hard about that because it's a health issue. But anyway, but I have my Riker. So yes, I married a Riker basically. He looks very good with the full beard.
But does he do the thing when he sits down though? No,
he does not. He's not that flexible. Also, we don't have any chairs that short.
Yeah.
So no, he doesn't do the Riker sit, unfortunately. But he has a Riker beard.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, it's great.
Some people just need facial hair.
Yes,
or they look ridiculous.
It was funny. Like one time, he like he was just trimming, but he got the attachment wrong, and he didn't shave it off, but it was dang close. And I think it was soon after Lottie was born, if I remember right. And I was just like, no, no, you need to, like, he's like, I goofed. I'm
Glue
like,
it back.
You did. Throw it back.
Yeah.
Get some Miracle Grow.
Yeah.
What's the stuff they use on a Chia Pet?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm even trying to remember. I think Alex was even weirded out by it because, like I said, he still had a fair amount of scruff, but it was to the point like you could tell how he would look without the beard. And I was like, I love you, dear, but you need a beard.
Yeah.
And he would agree with me. So it's not like I'm sitting here, bagging on my husband. We both agree.
Oh yeah, no. I totally.
Yeah.
My uncle is like that. He either needs a beard or at the very least a mustache because he has no upper lip.
Yeah, my dad one year accidentally made the mistake of shaving off his mustache. My mom and I were both like, mustache. I mean, he did a nice beard. This is like, if you can keep the mustache, shave the beard, but do never ever shave the mustache. Did not look. No.
Yeah, it was funny. My in-laws, several years ago, they were getting like some old wedding pictures out, and Jared and his brothers had never seen their dad without a mustache. But in those wedding pictures, he doesn't have a mustache, and they just kept staring at it because they were hanging it up on the wall with all the boys' wedding pictures too, and they're like, that just looks wrong. And their dad was even like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't have it then. I can't remember what the conversation was, but it was just, I just remember all of them just kind of staring at it, at the pictures up on the wall. Oh my goodness, yeah. So there's some guys, they just need the facial hair. Anyway, that was a tangent. Jonathan Frakes is coming, everyone. That is
Yay!
To FanX. So yeah, if you have watched season 3 of Picard and your hope in new Star Trek has been renewed, and you are like, hey, all these cool next gen people who are coming, yeah, let's get on the bandwagon and come see him. And I'm like, I do want to meet Michael Dorn because I adore Worf. Worf is just the best. We may have to put Picard season 3 on the dock at some point.
Oh yes, it is good.
It is very good.
I'd have to watch skip 1, 2, and 3. So
no, you can skip 1 and 2 because they're awful. But season 3, you can just start there.
2 was decent. If you're a Q fan, I would watch 2.
See, I love Q. So
if you like Q, yeah. Jared was like, we watched. I checked out after the first episode of season 1, and Jared tried it. Like, he kept watching a few more, but he's like, I can't do this. And it was like people had to convince us to watch season 3, and like, okay, fine, we'll do it. And we watched it. Like, you should have started out with this.
The point.
Yeah,
it is not the point.
No. So anyway, and you don't have to have watched 1 and 2 to understand. There are a few things that it references, but there are a few characters like, okay, this person's been here, so whatever.
Right. And at least they make enough of a mention that it doesn't retread if you haven't seen 1 and 2, so you understand what's going on.
Yeah. So you know what's going on, and so it's a good one. So look forward to that, FanX people, or anyone coming from out of town, out of state.
Cool.
Take the trek over. I don't know what people do. No, we've got our passes, and our kids are already excited, and they don't even know why. Well, they do know why.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got some announcements from Marvel a la Disney Plus, so you can mark your calendars. Still in pencil, as always. But right now, you could put in pencil October 6th as the premiere of Loki season 2. And then Thanksgiving weekend, essentially. So, when you're in your, when you fully stuffed yourself and are going back for seconds, thirds, and whatevers, and still eating said leftovers for the next 3 days, and you're so full you don't want to do anything. November 29th, we're going to get all of the episodes of Echo.
Cool.
I think Disney's taking advantage of that being a holiday weekend for a lot of people.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend. I mean, everybody, you're all watching stuff anyway that
Yeah.
Thanksgiving weekend and eating leftovers.
Like,
so
sick of football? Here you go. Here's the new Marvel show on Disney Plus. Oh, and then this was very exciting.
yes, this
But
was
the
a shock.
the CW has announced that the librarians are coming back. Kind of. The series, The Librarians, is coming back with The Librarians, the next chapter. So, according to Dean, who is coming back as executive producer and showrunner, the little blurb that the CW gave us is The Librarians. The next chapter is a spin-off of the original series, The Librarians, which followed the adventures of the custodians of a magical repository of the world's most powerful and dangerous supernatural artifacts. The new series centers on a librarian from the past who time traveled to the present and now finds himself stuck here. When he returns to his castle, which is now a museum, he inadvertently releases magic across the continent. And then he is given a new team to help him clean up the mess he made, forming a new team of librarians.
So I find it interesting that at the top of this blurb, they're talking about the CW network is undergoing a massive content overhaul to redefine the CW brand, which that just amuses me because we all kind of know what a CW show is. It's kind of that teenage angsty stuff. Like
that is the CW's way of saying all of our DC superhero shows are going away.
Pretty much, yes. Like,
and we don't have Supernatural either.
Right.
Yeah.
We got nothing.
But yeah, they do. Well, I mean, they sold Warner Brothers or whatever. They basically sold the CW to I don't know who.
Yeah.
For like pennies on the dollar. So it's like, what are you gonna do with this? So I wonder if it's like gonna become more of like what TNT is supposed to be, or kind of like that, where it's more not just your good-looking flannel-clad skinny people with good hair or whatever. Because I mean, the CW.
Look at you, Jared and Jensen.
Yeah, probably. Well, no, okay. Last week, it was my birthday, and for my birthday, I asked Jared to take the kids, and I wanted the house to myself. One of the things I did was I finished watching the first season of Superman and Lois because I love Superman, and I've been really wanting a good Superman fix. And people have told me this show is actually pretty good if you like Superman. And the first season was good, but there were some moments I'm like, yeah, this is still a CW show, but it's a decent Superman show too. So if you're a fan of Superman, I have the second season on hold at the library. I forgot to grab it when I was at work today. But I will say the first season was solid. But yeah, there are things I'm like, yeah, this has still got that CW stink on it. and we all kind of know what that is. So I'm wondering, because it sounds like they said not confirmed if the original cast will return, but it sounds like they might even just be doing this from scratch, because it sounds like a time traveling librarian comes to the future and there's a new team. So who knows? I mean, I would love for any of the original group to show up. I imagine maybe Noah Wiley at least will be there, but who knows? So I'm where they're revamping it so much. I'm kind of gonna wait until I know more before I get really, really excited. But where Dean Devlin is still on board, I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I think
I
it
need
really
more
just
information.
it really just depends on when this actually goes into production. Although at the moment nothing's in production because of the writer's strike.
Nothing.
Strike,
Well, there's a writer's strike. I think the Directors Guild. I think I heard rumor they were gonna maybe. So there's some upheaval that's happening in Hollywood.
Depending on what happens going forward, because obviously we know some of the cast is at the moment employed elsewhere.
Right.
So, because Rebecca Romaine is she still on Star Trek: The Strange New Worlds?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't finished first season of that.
Christian Kane just kind of sits around and waits till somebody calls him and says, "We're either doing the Librarians or more Leverage."
Or another season of Almost Paradise. We need to have the Philippines.
And then John Larroquette, depending on, I haven't heard if the Night Court reboot is getting picked up for another season or not. So we'll see. Yep.
We will see. See what happens. Yep. So, but it is in the works. So just kind of we'll keep you posted. Like I said, I need more information to make a decision on whether or not I'm looking forward to this. But if it's good, if it has the same spirit and the same vibe, I guess, as the series we knew and loved before, then I'll be on board. And also, this reminded me, I am overdue for a Librarians rewatch anyway. So,
I
have all the seasons,
whatever will you do?
Oh gosh. The other thing I did was last week I rearranged our DVD collection because it was just in this haphazard, nothing made sense, and I just realized, like, we have so many things we can watch. Why do we need streaming? It's like, kids, I'm going to introduce you to the wonders of home video, because that's what we did when I was a kid.
Yeah. So watch this space, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, and if any of the work stoppages affect it.
Yeah,
may affect everything else that's going on. So, yeah, we're all kind of in a holding pattern with that.
Yeah. Yep. So that is it for the news. We don't have any feedback, so I guess at this point we shall be sounding the spoiler alarm.
Boop, 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 boop.
Yep.
There's my alarm.
I have a sound effect I add, so.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And it's not my smoke detector going off in the other room. That's my husband making dinner.
Wait, is it actually going off? I can't hear it.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, wow.
So we just have the world's most sensitive smoke detector. So, hold on a second. Ugh. Yep. Okay. We're good. I make sure he actually was there making dinner, and it wasn't just random going off and he's not there, but the fact that it goes off and then.
Yeah, because if your fire alarm's going off and Chauncey is not cooking, you gotta.
Yeah, then we've got a problem. So
yes.
Just checking. Okay, we're good.
Pause recording and lick it.
Yeah.
You're like,
nope, we're fine. In that case, my smoke detector is just gonna be a stand-in for the spoiler alarm.
Right.
So spoilers
making toast, making bacon.
Yes.
Calm down.
Yep. In this case, French fries.
Ooh, yum.
Yep.
Yummy.
We baked, not deep fry. But yeah, so spoilers for really the MCU up to this point, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and the Guardians Holiday Special specifically. So our 30-second film entry into the MCU. And a bit of a send-off for the Guardians as we know them at the moment. So not just spoiler warning, but kind of content warning.
That too, yes.
As well. Yes. Mostly because of Rocket's backstory. So if things related to animals and the treatment of animals bothers you, you may want to turn this episode off.
I will say I do know of several people, and I'm kind of in that camp, but they knew that was a possibility, and they're like, yeah, I love the Guardians, but I don't think I can go see this movie.
Yeah,
right.
It is tough to watch, but it also explains a hell of a lot, at least as far as Rocket is concerned. And it also just goes to show just how awful of a villain this, supposed, this guy that's supposed to be this amazing scientist, this high evolutionary is. Because, I mean, we've dealt with some pretty nasty villains in the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
But
this dude takes the cake.
This guy is bordering on like some stuff that actually happened in real life.
Psycho.
What he was doing to these animals was being done to human beings by a certain, by lack of a better term, terrorist group back in the 30s and 40s in Germany.
Yeah. That one wackadoo with the funny mustache, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And a couple of his cronies? Yeah.
Lots of his cronies, yes.
Cronies, yeah.
Yeah. Several topics on Behind the Bastards. You can go listen to those episodes where they get into detail if you could handle that sort of thing. So yeah. So I mean this picks up after the holiday special. Which the holiday special obviously takes place at Christmas. It's after Endgame and Thor Love and Thunder. Because obviously Thor was running around with the Guardians at the beginning of Thor Love and Thunder, until he took off to do his own thing. And then the Guardians have gone and they have actually purchased Nowhere from the Collector. So apparently the Collector's not dead. So he was just beat up a little by Thanos, but he's not actually dead. So they purchased Nowhere from him and is now kind of Guardians headquarters. And they live there. Some of the Ravagers live there. A bunch of other people, the people like Cosmo, who was part of the Collector's collection, is now free to run around. Cosmo, she is a good dog, despite what Kraglin may say. Cosmo is a very good dog. But by this, Peter was depressed in the holiday special because of everything that happened with Thanos and Gamora dying, and then a different Gamora who doesn't know him, being brought forward from 2014. So he was depressed in the
which has got to be like the worst part of the whole multiverse thing, is like meeting people that you know and care about that aren't the person that you actually know. And I'm like, oh, you want to make the multiverse a heartbreaker. That's how you do it.
Yeah. Well, and James Gunn, in an interview when he was doing press for this one, he said that the first film is about the mother, the maternal figure, and this, Peter dealing with the death of his mother, and stuff like that. And then the second film is about relationship with his father, obviously with Ego. And then this film is really about the Guardians' relationship with themselves. And after all the stuff that they've been through and the time they've spent together, they're a family, but they all each individually have their own like personal hang-ups, and they don't necessarily interact with each other in the healthiest ways because they'll lash out. You know, there's a scene at one point where it's Mantis and Drax and Nebula, I think. And Mantis is complaining. She goes off and starts talking about how stupid Drax is, which he's not.
No,
he's got to. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, but they have to come. They kind of have to come to grips with their own weaknesses instead of lashing out at the others and pointing out what they think are their perceived weaknesses. So Mantis goes off and calls Drax all these stupid names, and Drax is all like, you think I'm stupid and all this stuff. And Mantis ended up using his powers, her powers, to make him forget that she said all of that stuff.
Right. And I was kind of wondering too, Drax is kind of playing dumb, if that wasn't kind of a way to protect himself from everything that happened, and being a father figure, losing that, and then because he was a dad, he was happy being a dad, and then when Thanos decided to come in, and he got shoved into a job that he didn't want, but he took it.
Exactly. Well, and at this point, Drax is kind of he doesn't know what his purpose is. Like what is his thing besides being muscle, obviously. But it's not like they're lacking for muscle either. I mean, Peter is decently strong. Obviously, Groot is extremely strong. This version of Groot. And just get stronger. So it's like Drax is kind of lost at what his kind of thing is, because before he was a family man. He had a wife and he had a kid and did whatever it is that he did on his home planet. And then after they died, his entire focus was, I must get revenge on Thanos. And then eventually, Thanos is dead twice, so it's like okay, well, my family has been avenged. Now what?
What do I do now?
Yeah, it's like, what else do I do besides eat bags of Zarg nuts?
Right.
I'll go find somewhere nice to retire or something. I don't know.
Exactly. Nebula is really stepping up in her role as a leader, being very, kind of managing Nowhere, and coordinating this, that, and the other thing, and then also taking care of Peter when he gets too drunk, which is exactly what happens at the beginning of this movie. You've seen it in the trailer, the shot of them walking in a row and Nebula's holding, Star-Lord in her arms, which that is actually a 35-pound replica of Chris Pratt.
Oh my God.
Made to scale. And I have it linked in the show notes. There's a short video clip that someone on the crew, when they first brought it out, and made sure that Karen could hold it and carry it, based on the size and the weight. And Chris Pratt is just like freaking out at just how
lifelike it is.
Lifelike it is. He's like, this is what my wife sleeps next to every night when I'm asleep. Because that version of Star-Lord is passed out drunk, so his eyes are closed, his mouth is kind of open. So he's like, this is what my wife sees when she's, when I'm in bed next to her. So
pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that bit in the trailer, and I'm like, I mean, Karen, I'm sure she works out and is, getting ready physically to be in this movie, but I don't think she's carrying Chris Pratt.
Right,
No?
yeah. Or I'm just like, that better be CGI because the back.
It's not.
Ow!
Nope. Nope. That was practical. It's like she's carrying a Chris Pratt.
Right.
It's
Not-
just not
the
the
real
Chris
one.
Pratt.
Chris Pratt. And speaking of trailers, holy Hannah, how many misdirects did we get?
Yeah.
I thought we were not going to get the ending that we did with everybody coming out on the Everybody Lives.
I mean,
Scale.
if you want to get technical, Rocket did die
Yep.
for a few minutes.
Right, and so did Star-Lord.
So that he had his little Harry Potter afterlife platform and 3/4 moment
Yeah.
with Lila. So,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So technically Rocket did die. He just didn't stay dead.
Right.
So,
Which, yay.
Yeah, you need to start asking the question more specifically, because yes, he dies, and then he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it's a comic book movie.
Dead.
Nobody ever really dies.
Yeah, I mean that was this
Not
that was this
really.
thing going around, like this Miss Marvel. They're making a big deal, like, oh, she's gonna die in the comics. I'm like, oh, wait 5 minutes, she'll be back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be another run and they'll bring her back. So
Universe.
I mean, even in this, because like we have and it's carried over from one of the post-credit scenes from Guardians 2. Kraglin takes Yondu's fin and the arrow that he controls by whistling. And we saw Kraglin try to use it in one of the post-credit scenes in 2 and was obviously not successful. He's still not successful by the time we get to this movie. And it reaches a point where it's pretty cliche. It was obvious that he was going to have a moment where, his back is against a wall and he just has to figure out how to use this damn weapon.
You figure it out when your life is in danger.
But in this case, he also got a little extra kick in the pants from a vision he has of Yondu.
Mm-hmm.
So even though Yondu's dead, they still brought Michael Rooker back to film this one little thing that I was not expecting.
So cool.
Yeah, because you hear his voice first, and then Kraglin looks across, he sees this vision of Yondu, and I'm like, it's like, like, you're already making me emotional, and then you gotta go bring Yondu. And I was like, oh, I'm sure they probably just took footage.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But no, apparently they brought Michael Rooker back to film that. So
your check is in the mail.
Yep. So that was really cool. And
let's put it up for the MVD. Cosmo!
Yeah. Yeah. Good old Cosmo.
Bestest doggo good girl ever.
Yeah.
Kraglin, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Apparently Cosmo has telekinetic powers.
Yes. Note to self, don't tick her off.
Don't tick off the Russian space dog. Or she might
smush you.
Might use her telekinetic powers and send you off into who knows where.
Mm-hmm. And she can telekinesis herself some treaties.
Yeah. What's funny is Cosmo is supposed to be a Russian dog, and the actress that voices her is Bulgarian.
Wouldn't have run it by me that she was Bulgarian.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, oh, it's Eastern Europe. It's fine. So I don't know. But yeah. So Nebula, she really steps up. So this is really bringing for Nebula. This is a fulfillment of her growth and arc as a character from just being, willing to do whatever Thanos tells her to do without a second thought to actually giving a crap about other
Right.
people and being a leader. Although her and obviously the version of Gamora that is running around, who at this point is now running around with the Ravagers, including Sylvester Stallone.
Yes. That was a surprise I did not see coming. I thought that was a one and done deal.
Nope. Now you brought him back. But obviously that Gamora has the memories of her relationship with Nebula up to when she was pulled to the present. So there's a bit of animosity there.
Right.
You know, that sisterly, like, rivalry, but they're still kind of friends. But like you said, when they're not directly talking to each other, like they'd walk by each other and they just kind of go, grrr, they just growl at each other. It's quite funny, actually.
Those Klingon.
Yes, yeah. It was very just like you know what I mean. Grrr.
Yeah. I love you, but I can still take you down.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Siblings.
Yeah. So, but this Gamora, is closer to what Nebula was.
Mm-hmm.
When we first met Nebula, who she was willing to shoot first and ask questions later. And it takes this adventure for her to realize that it's not just about like shooting things and blowing shit up to get the job done. So she humanizes her a little bit. Obviously, she and Peter Quill are not going to be a thing. Because that entire history is gone. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but by the time we reach the end of the movie, they're at least friends. They're on friendly terms. She goes back with the Ravagers. So Mantis, she does, we definitely get to see more of Mantis and what her abilities are and what she's capable of. With her ability to, make Drax forget that she just spent 30 seconds insulting him. We see the return of her ability to kick some major ass, which we saw in the holiday special, although she doesn't have any oversized candy canes to fight with this time, but she could still kick ass. And yeah, by the end of the film, she's like, I spent my entire life under the thumb of ego. I want to see what the rest of the universe has to offer. So she decides to kind of be like a kid who's going to take a gap year in between high school and college.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to run off and kind of see the galaxy. But really this film is, Drax by the end. Well, we'll get to that. Drax does get to kind of step back into a father figure role.
Yes.
But we'll discuss how he gets there. But really, this film is about Rocket. It's not even about Peter Quill. I mean, Peter Quill obviously is the leader of the Guardians. And it's because Rocket gets seriously injured when Adam Warlock comes barreling into nowhere and just starts beating the shit out of people. Because he's looking for Rocket. Because his mother, who we saw in Guardians 2, has sent him off to try and find this creature that had been, augmented, I guess, by the High Evolutionary, and then stuff happened and Rocket was able to get free, and has been, off doing his thing ever since. But we learned the backstory that this high evolutionary is really just this mad scientist. Is not even, that's barely scratching the surface of what this guy is. He is a narcissist.
Calling him a mad scientist is putting it kindly.
Yeah, it kind of is. It is
very kindly.
Yeah, he would have fit in really well with that group of guys with the guy with the funny mustache. He would have fit in really, really well. But in this case, his thing was he likes to experiment on animals because he thinks humans are trash. And he thinks that if he can find a way to make animals human-like, but also they'll be better. He's essentially trying to create a utopia that's never going to happen. Because like he ends up creating this alternate Earth. This alternate Earth where all of the people living on it, I'm doing air quotes, are all animals that he has evolved. Kind of like Pokemon. He's created this science technique where he could evolve a creature from the creature we would recognize, at a park or a zoo or whatever, and immediately they're anthropomorphized.
Except in Pokemon, you have like 2 or 3 stages, and that's part of their.
Yeah, no, he just goes from base Pokemon to full evolved in one fell swoop.
And even in Pokemon, they talk about why that's a bad idea. Okay,
yeah.
So the animal experimentation thing, because he hates humans, it just reminded me of all those times, like those assemblies we had at school about talking about how watch out for certain behaviors in people that that this is a sign that they might be up to something no good. And one of those things is they are not kind to animals. And what's the next step up? Being not kind. I mean, I'm kind of keeping this YouTube friendly, I suppose, but
a lack of
empathy,
or
recognizing the value
sanctity of life.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, the sanctity of life,
and taking pleasure in doing that and not realizing what I'm doing is wrong and hurting someone else.
You think humans are trash, but it's okay to do all these things to animals. Okay, yeah, you're a Looney Tune. No offense to Bugs Bunny and company, because you guys actually add something to the universe.
Right.
But, yeah, this guy is no bueno.
Should have been locked up, tossed the key. Ego should have had his way.
Pretty much. Pretty much. And the thing is like when he's doing like the actual the quick evolving, it's done in like a tube with some gas and stuff. So like that's not too bad. Although some of the evolutions, they look really, really weird. Kind of like, okay, so like you could kind of see a little bit of James Gunn's like trauma background in some of the creature designs. But it's the actual, because like he does these experiments in batches, so then each of the batches have numbers, and then each individual creature gets like a number, so it's like, Rocket is 8-P something or like that, he's from batch 8 and he's experiment creature P13 or whatever the heck it is, I can't remember. But he's actually moved on past Rocket's batch. But he keeps coming across stumbling blocks, like when they do the quick evolution, the creatures are immediately like outrageously aggressive, and there's no like turning it off. They're just like the Tasmanian devil, speaking of Looney Tunes, just but he's got Rocket, who
instantly knows what's wrong.
Yeah, he realizes what's wrong because he's been teaching Rocket and Rocket's been doing like these math equations and all sorts of. So Rocket is a little genius. Yeah,
Well,
even
we knew
even
that.
as a little, even as a an adolescent raccoon. But Rocket's being kept in a cage with 3 other experiments. So there's an otter who they give themselves names.
Yes.
So the otter is Lila,
Yes.
and then there's a bunny rabbit who
Yes.
calls herself Floor.
Yes.
And then
because
there's
she's on the floor, but my
Yes.
headcanon is floor is also Spanish for flowers, so I'm thinking she doesn't know that, and she probably spent some time in flowers, so I'm going with floor equals flower in my
Could
head.
be. Could be.
Yeah, I heard floor, and I'm like Fleur Delacour from Harry Potter.
No, like FLOOR.
Oh, okay.
Take one of those O's out.
I hear flower. So
Yeah.
there you go. I'm going the Bambi route here.
Yes.
Except flower was a skunk in that movie, but never mind.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, the floor.
Yeah.
And then a walrus named Teefs.
Teefs, yes. Because he has teeth.
Yeah. So, I don't recognize the names of the people that voice Floor and Teefs, but Lila is Linda Cardellini, who is already in the MCU as a certain wife of a certain archer.
Oh, and an agent.
Mm-hmm.
A secret agent.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm just like, why does it sound familiar?
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yes.
She's also Velma in the live action Scooby-Doo movies with Matthew Lillard. So but I don't.
It all circles back.
It does. Well, it all circles back to James Gunn. Really, yeah. Yeah, they actually reused several people in this movie, because Judy Greer, who plays Scott Lang's ex-wife, voices War Pig in this. So. And of course we got the return of Sylvester Stallone. Tara Strong comes in to do the voice of Mainframe, which had been voiced by Miley Cyrus in Guardians 2. Obviously Tara Strong voices everything, but as far as the MCU is concerned, she's Miss Mannix.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's been in the MCU.
Yep. So yeah. But yeah, but then Rocket names himself Rocket because he spotted a rocket outside the window, one of the few times he was actually let out of his cage. But yeah, it's the experimentation done specifically on Rocket that is probably one of the toughest things to watch, that and the death of his friends. Because the High Evolutionary, when Rocket starts to rebel, the High Evolutionary ends up killing his 3 friends pretty brutally, actually. So it's tough. But the experimentation on Rocket, on little baby Rocket, because like the movie opens with the raccoon that's going to become Rocket being picked up out of a cage that's full of little baby raccoons, and they're all CGI.
But still,
they look really realistic, and they're so small, and the eyes are so big and black, and they're so scared. And then they do the experiments on the little baby rocket, and it's like, oh my god!
Well, and then
they deliberately picked the cutest, cuddliest little critters. They couldn't pick something like well, I guess everything when it's a baby is cute, but like I don't know, blowfish or something that's like kind of weird looking.
Pufferfish, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then every single time when he's talking to Rocket, how close he gets to his head, I'm just like, don't get your hands away from that cute little face and cranium, because I know what you're capable of. You heard Rocket, we riot.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But it turns out that part of the experimentation that was done on Rocket included putting a kill switch
Yeah.
in
We
his
did not know about.
insides, so that if
Yeah.
anybody tried to do anything to him, even if it was to try to save his life, then it would activate, because the high evolutionary saw them more as property than as beings. So it's like this you know, experiment 8 dash whatever is, you know, proprietary property of me and my organization. So if anybody's gonna mess with it, I'm gonna destroy it. So he put this kill switch in, but then when Rocket gets injured, when Adam Warlock comes looking for him, and they realize that they can't do anything medically to try and save Rocket's life until they figure out a way to deactivate this kill switch. And that means that they need it's all computer programming, so they need the code to turn it off, so it sends them on this whole adventure to get to, you know, the facility eventually where the high evolutionary is, and get the computer code. But in the process, you know, the team gets split up, and they put in different combinations, and that's how we end up with like Drax getting insulted, but then forgetting about it.
The eternal
we-
fetch quest.
We end up with Nathan Fillion properly being in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
First time he was a voice. Second time he was well, his scenes were cut.
Right.
He
Wasn't he just a blink and you miss it poster?
Yeah, he ends up being a blink and you miss movie poster in the background while the Dairy Queen is being destroyed in St. Louis. But this time we get Nathan Fillion proper, with multiple scenes.
Yes.
Being a dick, essentially.
And him and Star
He's
Lord
a security guard.
bonding.
I mean,
Yes.
that's what do you expect? It's kind of his gig. He's got to be a dick.
And him and Star Lord kind of bonding over, yeah, I got this crew. They aren't the best, but hey, good help hard to find these days. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh. But finally, we get Nathan Fillion proper.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was quite fun.
Yes.
Third time's the charm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but eventually they end up having to go to, the alternate Earth, to try and get the code that they need, and that's where they meet the experiment that the high evolutionaries gotten to at this point, which is to create a whole new planet populated with anthropomorphized animals. None of them speak English. You know, the Guardians show up in the middle of this town that looks like it's stuck somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s. It kind of looks like the house I grew up in. Kind of. Actually, it looks, not the house I grew up in, but some houses I been into when I was a child. But they managed to communicate at least a little bit when they're not yelling at Drax to not lay down on the people's couch and fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because apparently to Drax, that's what couches are for. They're for sleeping on. And that's it.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that logic. Argue
Yeah.
against that logic.
But of course, they've upgraded ship-wise. Their current ship is way bigger than the Milano, what they had before, which, obviously the Milano was an homage to Alyssa Milano, who Star-Lord would have known from television before he got abducted from Earth. But their new ship is called the Bowie.
Yes.
As
I wonder if it's not after David Bowie. Yes.
Yeah. Of course they would.
Ziggy Stardust himself.
Yep. I think in some way that was James Gunn's way of having David Bowie be in the film, because he never got David to actually be in Guardians. Because like he wanted him to, he was gonna try to get him in Guardians 1, and they just couldn't get it work. And then obviously David died a couple years after that. So really they've only been able to just kind of use his music.
Did Mr. Gunn say what kind of role he had planned for David, or what character he would have had?
I don't remember. I'm sure it would have been something wacky and right up David's alley, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, or he could have had him play it straight too, because I mean David could do that too. If you've ever seen The Prestige,
yes,
where he plays Nikola Tesla. So
yes.
I mean, just David Bowie, he would have fit perfectly in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah,
it just sucks he's not around to do that.
Something to see him if he would have made it in Guardians, and then if he could have, if he would have been around for him facing off with Tony Stark. Now that would have been something to see. Fanfic writers, please, thank you.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yep. So it's like, Tony Stark, I'd like you to meet Ziggy Stardust.
Yes.
You thought Dr. Stephen Strange was weird.
Yep, when you get a load of this guy.
Yeah.
This is where Dr. Strange got his weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so again, the Guardians get split up a little. But in the this was, I think, of all the things that happened in this movie, this may have been the most shocking thing, at least to me, is when they realize where they need to go to try and get, the information they need to save Rocket. Peter's like, can I take your car? Even though he has no idea how to drive. He left Earth. He left Earth when he was 8.
Yes, he didn't get any backfield lessons. Okay, here you go.
No.
Park, brake, gas.
He can fly a starship with his eyes closed, but can't drive a car. Apparently knows how to get into the car, because of course this Earth is stuck, like I said, in the late 80s, early 90s. So children,
and we get our first F-bomb.
Hang on, I'm getting there.
Sorry,
you're ruining the surprise.
Forget I said anything.
Yeah. Children, back in the day, if you wanted to get into a car, you had to put the key in the slot.
Yes.
In the side of the door, usually near the handle.
Yes.
Turn it, and then open the car door. And if you were already in the car and someone needed to get in and it was locked, they had these little things. I don't even know what you call them. Like, it depends on the vehicle. They might look like a little antenna,
buttons, but taller.
They might look like an antenna or something like that.
Yeah,
and
not quite a silver joystick.
Yeah, and you pulled it up to unlock, and then you push it back down to lock. And then sometimes, depending on the make and the model of the car, on the outside, not only to unlock it did you have to use the key, but sometimes there was a button you needed to push before you could pull the handle.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And Nebula was struggling with this concept of having to push the button and then pull the handle. And sometimes you kind of needed to push the button with your thumb, but still have your hands, the rest of your fingers in the handle, so you could push and kind of pull the handle at the same time. It just depended on the make of the model of the car.
Sometimes it wasn't a one-handed deal. Sometimes you had to use both hands.
And if your hands weren't strong enough, well, then you were just locked out.
Exactly. So this is
your mom or dad would have to let you in somehow.
Yeah.
And
so this is
if you lived in cold climates, if the door froze, you would have to reef on that thing, and hopefully the door would slam shut after you pulled it open.
Yeah, really.
Or you would have to wait until the car warmed up and then went in.
No, I remember having cars like that back in the day, where if it got cold and the door was frozen, sorry, you're not getting in.
And if
or you have to try to squeak through the window.
Or Gen Zers listening, and they're like, "How did you survive?" And it's like, "Oh, just wait, your time is coming."
But anyway,
some of those Facebook posts that you see that say, "Don't mess with the kids from the late 70s to the 90s," you know why.
Yep.
So when your mom or dad was like, "Hey, we need to go. Let's get in the car." First, you needed to turn off your stereo with your record player and go outside and maybe push the button and pull the handle on the car door to be able to get in. And if you're lucky and depending on what year it was, your car may have a cassette player and your parents may put in something good.
Right. And you may or may not have back seat belts, depending on how old the car was.
Yeah. So, obviously, archaic compared to what we have now.
Yes.
Obviously, very archaic to people who have spent their entire existence living in space, where stuff like that does not need to exist for any reason whatsoever. So Nebula is struggling with trying to get into the car a smidge. Can you blame her? No. She's not from Earth. She is not even human, at least not anymore. She's more machine than person these days. Although her upgrade, some of her upgrades are pretty awesome. She's got this new arm that's all nanotechnology. Tony Stark would be very proud. Apparently that was done by Rocket as a thank you. Again, spoilers for the holiday special, for her giving him Bucky's arm as a Christmas present.
I wonder if some of that nanotechnology Rocket didn't steal when he visited Stark Tower and talked to Tony.
I doubt it, but he may have heard about it from Nebula, though, because Nebula and Tony were stuck together.
True, but you know what I'm getting at.
For a little bit. So
I want that. Maybe Tony just obliged. Yeah, whatever. Talking raccoon.
But yeah, at some point between Endgame and or somewhere in between Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the Guardians Holiday Special, Nebula was able to go and hunt down Bucky Barnes and take his arm, according to James Gunn, in the middle of the night. She went and just took it and gave it to Rocket as a Christmas present. So the Thunderbolts is going to be very interesting to see what Bucky's doing for an arm.
Yeah.
So he probably just called up Shuri, Shuri?
Hey, remember that one arm you gave me? Well, I need another.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's just like, okay. Nebula comes to us like, okay, here, Shuri's making me an upgrade. I don't need this, so here, you just tell Rocket you just snuck in the middle of the night and.
Well, no, according to James Gunn, that's what she did. So, if the writer director said that's what she did, that's what she did. So now, whether Bucky knew about it, to be determined. So, but
or if you allowed it,
yeah, according to the man at the top, that's how she acquired Bucky's vibranium arm. So that is canon, according to James Gunn. So anyway, so yeah, Nebula's got this new arm, and maybe part of the fact, maybe that's also part of the fact why she struggled with the door and the lock so much. But either way, Peter Quill.
She knew she had to be gentle, otherwise she'd rip the door off.
Yeah, really. Peter Quill being Peter Quill and being the hothead that he is, because he likes to fly off the handle every now and then. We all saw what happened in Infinity War. He drops the MCU's first F-bomb. Proper F-bomb.
Yeah, yes.
Now, according to some people, depending on who you ask, we already had our first F-bomb. It just wasn't in English because it was Groot that said it. Teenage Groot, specifically.
But
he's still saying Groot, so it don't count.
Right. So, this is not the first Marvel movie to ever use an F-bomb, obviously. Deadpool uses them a lot. They go back to the Punisher movie in the late 80s. That's like he uses the F-bomb a bazillion times, but those aren't MCU.
Right.
So as far as the MCU is concerned, this is our first blatant use of the F-bomb. And of course it comes out of Peter Quill's mouth. And
Rachel did not have money on
he's
that
like,
one. She had money on Ryan Reynolds doing
effing door.
Yes.
So I was a little surprised. I mean, if I was going to say of any of the MCU characters that we already have, who is the most likely to drop the F-bomb? Peter would probably be in my top 5.
Right. Probably followed by Tony.
Tony.
If he was still alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Tony and then Peter Quill. I mean, I honestly really thought we were not going to hear it until we got Deadpool. But nope, James Gunn keeping us on our toes.
Although I would be surprised if there wasn't a joke about it in the next Deadpool movie.
Oh yeah. Now it's almost mandatory that Deadpool is like, hey, who stole my line?
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, and what's his bucket? That James Gunn's going to the DC. To DC, they'll be like, "Wait a minute, you stole my thunder, and then you left."
Yeah, really.
I don't know. The joke, I think writes itself, but maybe that's too much low hanging fruit for Ryan Reynolds.
I don't know.
Hey, if the low hanging fruit is offered, you gotta go for it.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, that's kind of like what Deadpool does. Is sometimes he does go for the low hanging fruit. So
there you go, Ryan. If you weren't already thinking about it, you can have that one for free.
Yeah, we'll let you iron out the details of how exactly that goes. But
or you might want to put in my character contract, I am the only one that is allowed to drop said F-bombs. Not you.
Meanwhile, Blade is in the corner, like, really?
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
Sharpening his knives.
Yeah. Making sure he's got all the garlic bullets he needs.
That too. Holy water vials.
Yes. Exactly. So, but obviously, as we are to do in these types of films, we end up having a big rush on the bad guys' facilities and blah 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 blah.
All hell breaks loose.
All hell breaks loose, and the High Evolutionary realizes that this version of Earth, his experiment's been a failure, so he's just going to wipe the slate clean and start over again. So that's exactly what he does, is he just kind of sets the planet to self-destruct and kills everybody on the planet, whether he intended to. I'm sure he just intended to kill, the occupants, and if there were just any other stragglers,
collateral damage.
Collateral damage, he didn't care. So Aisha, Adam Warlock's mother, ends up getting killed. But they all end up, everyone manages to make it to safety, either in the ship or in the evolutionaries kind of compound building thing, which apparently can take off like a rocket. It's not just an office building, it doubles as a spaceship. So of course, there's the showdown. They in the meantime, they realize that there are children, not just animals,
right,
being held captive on this ship building thing, and they don't speak English, but turns out Drax speaks their language, which we don't know why, but ends up being very helpful, and very cute too. I mean, that's the father, the Drax that comes out in that. So it's very adorable. And
then too, later on, it was cool to see Nebula even kind of take on that role too. Like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah,
I can still be kick-ass, but still have a heart of gold.
Exactly. But of course, this movie really being Rocket's movie.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to the High Evolutionary, if anyone's going to take him down, it's going to be Rocket. So
I mean, the cheers that went up when Rocket just went for it. In the cinema, I thought it was just like, yep. You take him down.
He'd already done it once.
Yeah, exactly. He just finished what he started.
Really? Because in the flashbacks, we see Rocket escape. In the process, he absolutely destroys the evolutionary's face.
Yep.
Makes Red Skull's face look almost human.
Yeah, tame.
Take Red Skull and Deadpool face and combine them together and make it really bloody. And that's what Rocket did to the High Evolutionary all those years ago. Yep. So yeah, he's really just finishing what he started. So so he ends up beating the crap out of the High Evolutionary, and the building blows up. But of course, that means he could still be alive, maybe. Although I don't know why they'd bring him back.
No.
That's one bad guy that I don't think needs to come back for any reason.
Nope.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Nope, we're good.
But in the process of they save all the kids and all of the animals. So because they couldn't just save the human adorableness. They had to save the non-human adorableness as well, which was very cute. Because at first Rocket was just trying to save the raccoons.
Yep. But then he saw the other animals.
And he sees on the cage the word raccoon. He's like, oh shit, I actually am a raccoon.
Yes. I've denied it for how long? And they weren't lying.
Yeah, that's
like,
you.
Dude, you're a raccoon. You. Yeah. But then he realizes that they need to save all the animals. So even though everything is blowing up around them, and the Kraglin had and all the folks in Nowhere had flown nowhere, because apparently you can put rocket boosters on the head of a dead Eternal and fly it places. So they've taken the Nowhere and bumped it up against the building, and they're trying to get people from the building as it's exploding and falling apart onto nowhere, and Cosmo's being a very good dog, using her powers to try and make it as safe as possible
Like I
for them to
said,
get across.
MVD, most valuable dog.
Yep. And then they get everyone across except for Peter Quill. And then Peter tries to jump for it and doesn't make it, and he ends up floating in space, and we think we're going to get a repeat of Yondu's death because he gets all frozen and stuff. But Adam Warlock to the rescue, because he had been saved previously by Groot instead of being utterly destroyed. And by showing him compassion, they made him realize that he doesn't need to be just a crazy, overpowered, really man baby.
Right.
Beating people up. So, which is good, because Adam Warlock is like ridiculously powerful. And he wasn't even fully cooked, is the thing. Could you imagine how powerful he would be if he had been allowed to mature completely in his egg?
Yeah.
It would have been ridiculous, because he's like, he's got powers. He's super strong. He can fly through space without needing, any protection for, to not freeze. He can breathe and stuff. So I've seen some people equate him to like Vision, because like he's this very powerful being that was like almost literally born yesterday. So he doesn't know anything about how the world works. He just knows what he's been taught. In this case, by his mother, who obviously she's not necessarily the most stable person to be teaching somebody right from wrong. Because after what happened in Guardians 2, she's a little unhinged. She's also terrified of the High Evolutionary, because he is the one who created the Sovereign in the first place. They were one of his earlier experiments. And Adam was also, supposed to be an opportunity to maybe take the Sovereign and plus him, but he got cracked from his egg before he was actually done. So he's immature, but he's willing to learn, which is good. Going forward, because you to have somebody that strong be on your side is a good thing. So Peter almost dies, but he gets saved by Adam Warlock. But then they realize that while they've been a very good team and they've had lots of fun together, that it's time for them to maybe go do other things. So Gamora goes back with the Ravagers. And Nebula takes over leading Nowhere. Like I said, Mantis takes off for her gap year. Drax stays behind on Nowhere with the children to play daddy, essentially, with the children. Quill makes Rocket captain of the Guardians. And Peter goes to Earth proper Earth, to reunite with his grandfather, because his grandfather, Jason, is still alive. That's cool and cute. In the mid-credit scene, we get to see our new Guardians with Rocket in charge. Groot, who we get grown Groot, and then that Groot gets beat up essentially and falls apart, except for the head.
Mm-hmm.
But he's able to regrow himself again. So this is really like Groot 3.
Oh boy.
Although really, I guess if the head was intact, then maybe it's still the same Groot. It's still Groot 2.0 because it has the head and it has all the memories and everything. So, but either way, this Groot, by the time we get to the mid-credit scene, this Groot is jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this Groot decided that he needed to put, like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger at his peak to shame. So, but yeah, so we got jacked Groot, Cosmo, such a good dog, Kraglin, Adam Warlock, and Phyla, who is one of the rescued children, who eventually, because she's straight out of the comic books, but most people think that she is going to be eventually known as Quasar. So, which in the comics, she's actually the daughter of Marvel, which is the male Captain Marvel. In fact, if you remember a couple of years ago when we did an episode when Shazam came out, talking about the history of Captain Marvel and the name and how it's bounced around until eventually Marvel was like, no, it's ours. So yeah, there was a Captain Marvel at one point who was male, obviously not Carol Danvers, and had a child. And that's Quasar in the comic book. So, but that's who most people think Phyla is gonna. As she grows up, she will take on the name Quasar. Likely, right now she's, you know, she's a little kid. I mean, she's not a little kid. I mean, she's probably she's older than Love from Thor: Love and Thunder. So, older than Love, older than Morgan Stark. So,
but it's probably still too young to be out.
Apparently not.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
Apparently not. So, and then Adam's pet Blurp. Which I thought Blurp was a distant relation to Morris. But I don't think so.
No.
Like they kind of look like there's a similar idea, fluffy body, multiple limbs, but in this case, like the head is different. It doesn't have wings. So, but Blurp, not quite Morris. Still kind of cute though. And then our post-credit scene is just Peter talking to his grandfather, catching up, and his grandfather, like, Peter's just eating cereal, you know, at the kitchen table, like, you know, something he did before he got abducted. Something he did like 30 years ago. And somebody's outside mowing the lawn, and he's talking, and his grandfather's kind of listening to him, but he's reading the paper, and you see on the front page of the newspaper, Kevin Bacon abducted by aliens. Which is exactly what happens in the holiday special, is they abduct Kevin Bacon. So Kevin Bacon, the actor, exists within the MCU.
Well, hopefully he doesn't get cast as like a character, because that'd really screw things up.
I mean, who's to say it couldn't be Kevin Bacon acting? Like, I don't know.
I don't know either.
This is why somebody else gets hired for these things and not me. I would say this is why people get paid the big bucks to write these things, but as we see with the WGA, they're not getting paid enough. So, well,
right now they're not getting paid at all. So
that's true. That is very true.
Nobody's getting paid.
Nobody. So, but yeah, I mean, it's still funny. I mean, it's still got its funny bits. It's still got a lot of heart. Yeah, the whole rocket stuff is hard to watch, honestly, if you're not even slightly bothered by the rocket stuff, then I'm gonna question I may need to label you a psychopath. If it does, if it doesn't bother you, at least a little bit. But obviously some people are softer, have way softer spots when it comes to animals, and those people I know that are Marvel fans, I've been telling them, like, you might want to hold off for a while. So, or just let somebody fill you in so you got the gist of it.
Yeah.
Let me show you the bits with Adam Warlock. He's going to be important going forward. The rest of them, maybe not so much.
Yeah, if you've got someone who can like fast forward through it when it comes to streaming or something, I don't know. Something like that.
This is, it's not one that, like, if you're going to struggle seeing it in the theaters, don't go see it in the theaters, because it's not like it's a scene and you can get up and like go to the bathroom and then come back when it's safe, because we get flashback of Rocket several times because he's in a coma present day for a good chunk of the movie. So we're getting what led up to Rocket, the Rocket we know, before they're able to, deactivate this kill switch is in him. And even then, he does temporarily die and has kind of a near-death Harry Potter type existence where he meets up with Lila and his friends again. And, he's carried around this guilt because they got killed and he survived. He's got survivor's guilt and all that stuff. And, they're all like, we missed you so much. And he's like, I miss you guys too. And Lila was kind of his girlfriend, in a way. Not that Rocket would admit to it, I think. But then he's all like, I want to come with you. And Lila's all like, well, yeah, you could, but it's not your time yet. And that's when Rocket comes back after Peter Quill does some CPR on Rocket. So, but yeah, because it's not all just done in just one scene. It's just not something you could just get up, walk away, and come back. So this is something you probably want to wait for streaming, so you could skip over, or just, I don't know, find YouTube videos. Like I said, Adam Warlock is like the important bit going forward. So just find bits on YouTube where people talk about Adam Warlock and his importance and his story and stuff, because the most of the, I know Batista and Zoe have said that they're done as far as they know. They fulfilled their contracts. Nobody's told them about anything going forward. So, as far as they are concerned, they are done playing these characters for at least the foreseeable future. Obviously, James Gunn is otherwise occupied for the foreseeable future. And I know at least Batista would not do another Guardians without James Gunn at the helm. He's extremely loyal to him. Pratt has said he's willing to come back. Karen has said she's willing to come back. So, and I have not heard anything of like, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel, potentially coming back, as Rocket and Groot. And I saw someone's fan theory, because as the group is like saying their goodbyes, and Groot actually speaks English. He says, I love you guys.
Aww.
And I saw someone's theory at a comment on a YouTube video. I was watching somebody's like breaking down, somebody who actually like knows the comics, because I don't. And the fan theory was that Groot was not actually speaking English, but the idea is, it's something that they were telling. I don't know if they outright tell Nebula, but it's just kind of implied, because this Nebula does not understand Groot. But eventually, by the end of the movie, she does. So the idea is that if you hang around Groot often enough, you'll begin to understand him. And this is our third Guardians movie with Groot. So he was actually saying, "I am Groot," like normal, but we heard it as what he was actually saying as audience, because we've spent so much time with Groot. Now we understand him too. I really like that theory.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. Like it. And there is the thing on the screen that says the legendary Star-Lord will return. So when and where that will be, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and find out. Whether is it going to be Secret Wars? Is it going to be, is Peter just going to have a nice little vacation, and then when Kang Dynasty comes around, they're gonna be like, we need legendary Star-Lord. So I mean, Adam Warlock is definitely going to be a good guy to have in our pocket for Kang Dynasty. So because he can pack a wallop. So he's going to be really handy against Kang. But really, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. It's like it's a really good ending for the Guardians. And Disney has supposedly said, obviously, the Captain America that we're gonna get with Sam Wilson as our captain as an exception, and obviously Thor, Love and Thunder. But supposedly Disney / Marvel, Kevin Feige, whoever, has said that they're no longer planning on doing more than 3 films that are character specific. So obviously, if it's an event like Avengers, they'll do as many as humanly possible. But we're not, in theory, we're not going to get a Guardians 4. They're not doing more than trilogies going forward. So obviously, we've had 4 Thors, and we're getting a 4th Captain America, but it's with a different Captain America. So
who knows?
Maybe there's a little gray area there. But that doesn't mean that these characters can't pop up elsewhere. Because like I said, by the time we get to Kang Dynasty, it's going to be like Thanos all over again. We're going to need as many hands on deck as possible. So, but it's good. I mean, it's not. It's not, again, it's not one of those necessarily universe changing. Obviously the introduction of Adam Warlock is important.
Well, and
but
like the Guardians, like they came in kind of in the latter part of the Infinity Saga as far as like character introduction. So this was kind of like, this was their send off. This is their as far as this specific group goes. So it was kind of a holdover from that, more or less. So it's a little different than some of the things that are going on.
Yeah, currently. Exactly. But it's good. It's definitely very good. I mean, great performances. Obviously, James Gunn and this cast work together really, really well. And James Gunn knows his stuff, so you can't. I don't really have any complaints other than it is tough to watch, but that's not necessarily a complaint. It's just it hurts. They're definitely. I was definitely I cried several times. There are also several times where I laughed out loud and the audience did too.
There you go.
So, you got everything you would expect really from the the movies up to, at this point, with the MCU isn't always a happy-go-lucky time. So, but it's very good. It's great. I mean, there's multiple people that are required to make Rocket become the Rocket we see on the screen. Sean Gunn does all the motion capture. So really, you kind of have to give it to both Bradley Cooper and Sean Gunn for this amazing performance of Rocket. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. So, again, like we said all the way back when the first Guardians came out, and we've been saying ever since when we talk about the MCU and the way it's grown and expanded, and like, we talked about Iron Man, and people like, really, Iron Man? And like, here we are 32 films later, and we're crying over CGI raccoons.
Yeah.
Who would just as much, flick you off and curse at you than give you a hug. So.
Yeah. It is an interesting time for me.
Rocket would give you a hug, but it's only because he's trying to pickpocket something off of you in the process.
Yeah, I need that guy's arm.
Yep.
Or the leg.
Well, he got that arm.
Yes, he did. All right. So there you go. Anything else?
Nope, I think we got it covered.
Okay.
Bring on Secret Invasion!
There you go. Well, if any of our listeners want to chime in on their thoughts on the newest Guardians of the Galaxy or any other topics we covered here today in the news and what have you, you can send us some feedback. Our email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also visit our website, which is thefivishfangirls.com. That has links to all of our social media places you can leave comments, which we will treat as feedback. Read that out on the podcast. And we also have ways to support the podcast if you are so inclined. We have Patreon, we have a merch shop. And so just check that out on the website. And we've got all the show notes and stuff there too, and links to all the places you can find the podcast. And of course, we thank you all for listening, and we appreciate you being here with us and enjoying our shenanigans and what have you. And thanks for coming along on the ride. We try to make it fun.
Mm-hmm. It has been a ride. To put it mildly. All right. Well, with that, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Tell me, guys, did that look cool?
Thank you for listening to the Fiveish Fangirls. Please visit thefivishfangirls.com for details on how to further support the show, along with information on our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back. We love our Fiveish fam and appreciate all of your feedback, shares, and encouragement. Remember to keep letting your geek flag fly.